Do you have identification for this account?
Right here. My advisor is expecting me.
Ma'am, is there a problem with this account?
No, officer. Everything is in order. Here is my identification.
Shown her ID twice. The officer, tall, white, broad-shouldered, his badge gleaming under the lights, had taken her federal badge between two fingers like it was contaminated. "You print this off some website?" he asked, smirking. Her throat tightened. "That's a federal identification. I'm here to audit the branch's financial reporting." He laughed. "Sure you are, sweetheart. IRS director, huh? Maybe next you'll tell me you're the president." Two customers waiting in line looked away. The teller whispered to another, eyes darting toward Alana like she might explode. "Sir," she said, voice even but trembling at the edges, "I'm asking you, politely, to return my credentials." The officer's radio crackled. "We've got a possible fraud situation at First Meridian. Female suspect claiming to be federal." Her heart stopped. He'd called it in. "Don't move, ma'am." His hand went to his holster. "Hands where I can see them." The room froze. Phones lifted. Someone whispered, "She's resisting." She wasn't. She was standing still, breathing shallow, watching her reflection in the polished floor. The dark woman in the neat gray suit. "Mistaken for a criminal again. Please," she whispered, "call your manager." He smiled. "Already did. He said nobody from the IRS was scheduled today." Her pulse thudded. She turned, searching faces, and then a voice behind her cut through the rain and the murmurs. "Officer," it said, calm but cold. "That's my director you're pointing that gun at." The officer blinked, confused, and for a heartbeat the entire bank held its breath. The fluorescent lights burned too bright in the bank lobby. Everything smelled of damp coats and disinfectant, a sterile calm before the humiliation began. "Ma'am," I said, "step back." Officer Thomas Kellerman's voice cracked through the air like a whip. Dr. Alana Pierce froze where she stood. She had done everything right, presented credentials, signed in, spoken clearly. She was the visiting IRS director, leading an unannounced audit, the kind of operation that made financial executives sweat. But none of that mattered. Her skin told a different story to him. "Officer," she said, voice low, "you're obstructing a federal audit." He grinned. "You're obstructing a security checkpoint." "Now back up," customers stared. The assistant manager, a nervous man in his 40s, hovered near the counter, pretending not to see. Alana lifted her chin. "Call your regional compliance officer. Tell them Dr. Pierce is here," he snorted. "Dr. Pierce, right. Maybe I should call Langley too while I'm at it." Laughter flickered from a man in line. Alana's chest ached with a familiar pressure, not fear. Not yet, but the weight of knowing she was again being measured against disbelief. She turned slightly. "Agent Monroe," she called. A young man in a dark suit hurried from the vestibule, holding a file. "Show him the appointment order." Monroe extended the folder. Kellerman didn't even look. "Put your hands where I can see them, both of you." "Excuse me?" "Hands now," a teller gasped. Monroe raised his hands. "Sir, this is a mistake." "Shut it." Kellerman drew closer, hand on his holster. "You think waving papers makes you untouchable?" Alana's voice stayed level, but her pulse was a hammer. "You're detaining federal officers without cause." "I'm telling you, you're telling me lies." He snatched her ID again, eyes skimming it with theatrical disgust. "Director of Field Audits, sure, and I'm the Pope." Rain tapped the glass behind her like quiet applause. Every sound sharpened, paper crinkling, whispers cutting through air. "Officer Kellerman." A voice called from across the lobby. The assistant branch manager, pale and sweating, jogged over. She's supposed to be here." "I got the memo, just too late." The cuffs clicked around her wrists, metal bit skin. "Time slowed, stop!" Monroe shouted, stepping forward. Two officers from outside pushed through the door, grabbing him. "Resisting audit," one muttered under his breath. Smirking. Cameras came out. Someone recorded. A woman's voice said softly, "Oh my God, she's crying." She wasn't. Not yet. Inside her, fury rose like fire behind glass, contained, scorching. "I told you who I am," Alana said quietly. "You're making a career-ending mistake." Kellerman leaned in, breath sour with coffee. "Lady, people like you always say that." The words sliced. "People like you." He led her out through the rain, head bowed, wrists bound. Sirens flared blue against the wet concrete. Behind her, through the glass, she saw Monroe still shouting, his voice swallowed by thunder. She didn't look back again. The holding cell smelled of metal and bleach, the same sterile indifference that hung over every station she'd ever visited in her years of audits. But now the smell clung to her like humiliation. Dr. Alana Pierce sat on the cold bench, cuffs removed but wrists red. The small barred window above let in a slice of gray morning. Every few minutes the fluorescent light flickered, buzzing like a trapped fly. Across the corridor, an officer laughed at something on his phone. Another walked by carrying coffee, the scent sharp and sweet, making Alana's stomach twist. She hadn't eaten since dawn. Her voice echoed when she finally spoke. "I need to make a call." The desk sergeant, thick-necked with a badge that read L. Brody, didn't look up from his paperwork. "You'll get your call when we finish processing you." "I've already been identified," he glanced at her, smirking. "By who, the ghost of the IRS?" Her hands clenched. "By your captain soon. If you value your pension, you'll move faster." The smirk faltered for a moment and before he shrugged. "Sit tight, ma'am." The ma'am landed like a sneer. Minutes stretched. Somewhere a cell door slammed. A young black officer appeared at the end of the hall holding a folder. He paused when he saw her, recognition flickering in his eyes. "Director Pierce," he said softly, almost under his breath. Brody frowned. "You know her?" The younger man hesitated. She came to audit training last year. IRS compliance liaison." Silence. Brody's face tightened. "Then she should know how this works." "Sit back down, lady." The young officer lingered. "Sir, maybe—" "Back to your post, Jenkins." Jenkins swallowed hard, eyes darting toward Alana before walking away. For the first time she felt it. Not anger, not pride, but exhaustion. The kind that seeps into the bones when every rule, every credential, every ounce of effort still leads here. She stared at her reflection in the steel tabletop. Hair disheveled, eyes rimmed red, a crease down one side of her blouse from where Kellerman's grip had twisted the fabric. She whispered, "I shouldn't be here." The light buzzed louder. Outside the cell, the precinct's front desk phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then an urgent voice cut through. "This is Washington Treasury Department. Connect me to Captain Wells immediately." Conversations halted. Chairs scraped. Brody's pen froze mid-signature. Alana's head lifted. The tone of command in that voice was unmistakable. Sharp. "Clipped, Federal." Brody stood muttering, and hurried to the front. Through the thin wall she heard fragments. "Yes, sir. She's here." "No, I wasn't aware." Another pause. "Understood, sir." The air changed. A few minutes later, the cell door opened. Captain Wells entered, mid-50s tired face, uniform crisp but eyes wary. "Dr. Pierce," he began, voice steady but taut. "We're sorting this out. There's been a miscommunication." "Miscommunication?" He shifted, guilt flickering behind his eyes. "Your release paperwork's being processed now. You're free to go shortly." After being detained, cuffed, and accused of fraud, he didn't answer. She stood slowly, shoulders squared. "You've made a legal mistake." "The officer who detained me, Officer Kellerman," he interrupted. "He's being debriefed." "Debriefed?" Her voice cut sharp. "He pointed a weapon at a federal director, Captain. You don't debrief that. You suspend it." Silence. His jaw flexed. "Dr. Pierce," he said quietly, "if you'd prefer to file a formal complaint, we can—" "I won't be filing. The Department of Treasury will." He blinked, then nodded once. "Understood." She brushed past him, but he caught her arm lightly. "For what it's worth," he murmured, "not all of us." She turned. "Then stop being silent when it happens." He let go. In the lobby, as she retrieved her briefcase and cracked phone, Jenkins appeared again. Eyes full of conflicted shame. "Ma'am," he said softly, "for what it's worth." "I'm sorry." She met his gaze. "Don't be sorry. Be different." He nodded, wordless. Outside, gray sky pressed down and sirens wailed somewhere distant. Her phone buzzed with unread messages. Colleagues, reporters, Washington contacts. The last one caught her eye. From Assistant Director Henley, subject, "Urgent. Call me the second you're out." "Treasury has already notified Internal Affairs." She stared at the message, thumb hovering, wind whipping her coat. For the first time that morning, her composure faltered. not from weakness and from clarity. The machine she served so long was finally turning in her defense, but it was too late to erase what had been done. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet even. "They'll call it an error," she said to no one, but it was never that small. And she walked toward her car, past cameras already waiting, past curious eyes that didn't know her name but knew a story had begun. The cell door clanged shut behind her, but the echo didn't fade. It followed her into the daylight. By the time Alana reached her office in D.C., her name was already trending. The morning news anchor's voice echoed faintly from a TV in the corridor. A federal official wrongfully detained at a Maryland bank. The words felt surreal, stripped of detail, smoothed into something palatable for morning coffee. She walked past the open offices, every conversation cutting off mid-sentence. Screens flickered with headlines. Some staff stood. Others pretended to focus on paperwork. Director Pierce. Her assistant Maya rushed over, eyes wide. Internal Affairs called 3 times. Treasury's comms division is drafting a statement. They said, "I know." Maya lowered her voice. "They have the footage, Alana. Someone inside the bank leaked it." Alana stopped walking. "Leaked?" Maya nodded. "Phone video. You're on camera." The officer's face, the gun, everything. For a moment, Alana said nothing. The humiliation she'd lived through was now content. Dissected, shared, consumed. "Get me the deputy secretary," she said finally. Now, inside her office, she shut the door. The silence was heavy, filled with the low hum of the HVAC system and the faint buzz of her computer booting. Her reflection in the glass wall looked like another person. Tired, wary, armored. The intercom crackled. "Deputy Secretary Hart on line 1. She picked up. "This is Pierce. Alana." Hart's tone was tight. "I've seen the footage. Jesus, are you all right?" "I'm fine." "No, you're not. You were arrested on camera." "I was detained," she corrected. He sighed. "Semantics won't help. Treasury Counsel's already coordinating with DOJ. Internal Affairs has been notified at the precinct." "The officer, what's his name?" "Kellerman." "Yes, he's doubling down. Says you flashed a fake badge, wouldn't comply with commands. Claims you threatened him." She let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "Threatened him?" "That's his report. And it's already leaked to a police union blog." Alana's grip tightened on the phone. "They'll close ranks. They always do." "We're working it," Hart said. "But we need you to keep calm. Don't post, don't speak to media. We'll handle optics." "Optics," she repeated, the word sour in her mouth. "Alana," Hart continued, softer now, "if we push too hard, this turns political. Let us navigate it." She stared out the window, the city below neat, orderly, blind to what it consumed. "You mean let you minimize it?" "That's not what I said. It's what you meant." Silence stretched on the line. Finally, Hart said, "You know how this works. If we play it right, that officer's career ends quietly. If we don't, the backlash hits everyone." She closed her eyes. "So you'll settle for quiet ruin instead of public accountability." "Sometimes quiet gets more done." She hung up. For a long moment she sat in the stillness, the hum of traffic below a dull pulse. Her hands trembled not from fear, from the pressure of self-control. Every protocol told her to wait, to stay procedural. But every instinct screamed that silence was how systems survived their own rot. A knock. Maya entered, holding a printout. "Press is at the lobby. CNN, the Post, local affiliates. They want a statement." Alana looked at the paper, the draft Treasury release. "We are aware of an incident involving one of our employees." The language was bloodless, crafted to say nothing. "Tell comms they'll get their statement," she said, standing. "But it'll have my name on it." Maya hesitated. "They won't like that." "They don't have to." She stepped out of her office, walking through the hall lined with portraits of past directors. All men, all white. Their eyes followed her like reminders of unspoken hierarchy. In the conference room, reporters jostled for position. The cameras clicked, light flaring against her skin. "Dr. Pierce, what happened at the bank? Were you targeted because of your race? Will you press charges?" Her pulse slowed. She'd done this 1,000 times. Not the humiliation, but the control. The framing. The poise. She spoke clearly. "I was detained by Officer Thomas Kellerman at First Meridian Bank. while conducting a lawful audit. Despite full identification, I was accused of impersonation and handcuffed in public view. That is the truth. Cameras flashed. What do you expect to happen next? Someone called. She looked straight into the lens. Accountability. Not a statement, not a suspension, accountability. Another voice. Do you believe this was racially motivated? Alana paused. The air seemed to hold its breath. I believe, she said, each word deliberate, that certain people see authority as incompatible with certain faces. The room went silent, the kind of silence that precedes impact. When she left the podium, the questions followed her like shards of glass. Maya caught up, whispering, "That'll go viral in an hour." "I know," Alana said. "Let it." Outside, the city light shifted, harsh midday sun on marble and steel. Somewhere, in a precinct office 50 miles away, Thomas Kellerman scrolled through his phone, reading headlines that turned his name into a warning. He muttered under his breath, "She won't get away with this." But the system had begun to stir, not because it wanted justice, but because it feared exposure. And once it wakes, it never goes back to sleep quietly. The clip ran on every major network by noon. "Breaking tonight," the anchor announced, voice solemn. New footage shows an IRS director detained at gunpoint by a local officer during what sources say was a routine audit visit. The video played again, Alana, standing motionless under the rain, the officer's voice raised, the metallic click of handcuffs audible even through the muffled background noise. Someone had slowed it down. The sound of the cuffs closing echoed like a gunshot. By evening, the internet had chosen sides. On one feed, "Your Justice for Pierce" trending, thousands demanding accountability, tagging officials. On another, "Curse back the blue," claiming she was aggressive. She made it racial. She staged it for attention. The same video, two completely different worlds. At Treasury headquarters, Alana watched the coverage from her office. Lights off, face pale in the glow of the screen. Maya sat nearby, scrolling through comment threads. "It's bad. Half of them are threatening letters." Half are support. Alana didn't look up. "That's America in halves." Maya hesitated. "Do you want me to filter your inbox? There's a lot of..." "Leave it. I need to know what they see." The footage looped again. Each replay stripped something from her. Composure, distance, privacy. Her phone buzzed. "Unknown number, Dr. Pierce?" a woman's voice asked, sharp and practiced. "This is Leah Morgan, legal advisor for the Treasury Ethics Committee. I'm representing the department's interest in this case." Alana straightened. "Go ahead." "I'm calling to advise you that as of this morning, the department has issued an internal hold on all media interaction. You're not to speak publicly without authorization." "I already did." A pause. "Yes, we saw. It's complicated now. Treasury wants to avoid appearing political. There are senators asking questions. Let them ask. I'd advise restraint." "Restraint is how this started." Leah sighed audibly. "Dr. Pierce, the optics are shifting. If you escalate, it could affect your position. Be pragmatic." "I've spent a lifetime being pragmatic." Her voice hardened. "It's someone else's turn to be careful." She ended the call. The door opened without a knock. Agent Monroe, the junior field officer from that morning, stepped in, still in his rain-soaked suit. He looked younger than usual, face pale with guilt. "Director," he said quietly, "I'm sorry. I tried. I know you did. They're saying I should have stopped recording." "You didn't record." His silence said everything. She met his eyes. "Good. That footage is why I'm not invisible right now." He nodded, guilt and relief tangling on his face. "They're coming for you, aren't they?" "Not just the police, I mean the system." "They already did." He hesitated. "Then what happens now?" Alana looked toward the window. Outside, D.C. was awash of light, ordered, ruthless, self-preserving. "Now," she said, "they'll try to control the story." And they did. That night, the department released a polished, colorless statement. "We regret the misunderstanding. At First Meridian Bank, the Treasury Department maintains great respect for law enforcement and continues to review the facts to ensure proper resolution." Line crafted to erase everything between gun and apology. On social media, it backfired instantly. One viral post read, "A misunderstanding doesn't come with handcuffs." By midnight, news vans surrounded the precinct. Officers shouted at journalists to move back. Inside, Kellerman sat in a cramped office, TV flickering. His phone buzzed with messages, friends, colleagues, union reps. Don't talk to anyone, his sergeant warned. PR's handling it. You're suspended with pay. Keep quiet and it'll blow over. Kellerman stared at the screen. His face filled it, distorted by the shaky phone camera, eyes cold, hand on holster. She made me look like the villain, he muttered. His partner looked up. You did pull your gun on her. Because she was lying. You sure about that? Kellerman's jaw tightened. She's just another bureaucrat trying to ruin a cop's life. I did my job. His partner said nothing. The TV replayed Alana's press conference. Her calm voice cut through the noise. Certain people see authority as incompatible with certain faces. Kellerman hurled his phone at the wall. It cracked against the tile. At the same time, across the city, Alana sat alone in her living room, laptop open, scrolling through the day's storm. News outlets dissected her every word, some praising, some mocking. Commentators debated reverse discrimination. Optics, respect for authority. She clicked one link. A police union spokesperson declaring that the officer followed procedure. Her hand trembled. She shut the laptop, leaned back, and pressed her palms to her eyes. The room spun with fatigue and fury. When the knock came, it startled her. Through the peephole, 2 figures in suits. Treasury insignia. She opened the door. Director Pierce, one said. We're from Internal Affairs. May we come in? She stepped aside. We're reviewing the incident formally, the man said, setting down a folder. You'll be asked to testify before oversight in 48 hours. Until then, we advise minimal public engagement. Alana nodded, expression unreadable. And Officer Kellerman? He's on leave. Union's protecting him. It'll take time, she repeated. He had seconds to destroy mine. They exchanged looks, sympathetic, bureaucratic, detached. After they left, Alana stood by the window, city lights flickering against her reflection. Somewhere below, protesters had already gathered. Chanting her name, she whispered to herself, not as comfort, but as a vow. You wanted quiet ruin. Heart, you're about to get noise. Outside, the chants grew louder, not for vengeance, but for truth too long silenced. And for the first time, she didn't feel alone in the fight. The Treasury conference room was windowless, soundproof and cold, the kind of room designed to erase emotion. A long mahogany table divided power from consequence. On one side, Dr. Alana Pierce, flanked by her counsel. On the other, Deputy Secretary Hart, the Treasury's legal advisor Leah Morgan, and a grim-faced representative from the mayor's office. Every wall hummed faintly with the static of security wiring. Every silence felt curated. Hart started first. Let's be clear, Dr. Pierce. We are not here to dispute the facts. The footage exists and it speaks for itself. What we're managing is fallout. Fallout, Alana repeated. That's one word for it. Leah cleared her throat. The political climate is volatile. Treasury can't appear adversarial to law enforcement. The department recommends proceeding with internal review, not litigation. Her counsel, a thin man named Carter Lewis, leaned forward. Internal review won't suffice. My client was unlawfully detained, humiliated, and publicly defamed. A civil rights violation occurred in plain view. Hart sighed. Carter, we're aware. But you're thinking in legal terms. I'm thinking in structural ones. Treasury doesn't win by fighting city police. It wins by appearing above them. Alana's voice cut cleanly through. Above them? Or complicit with them? The mayor's representative, a pale man in an impeccable suit, interjected before Hart could answer. Dr. Pierce, the city regrets the incident. The department has initiated disciplinary review. Review is a word people use when they want time to forget, Alana said. He blinked. We're following process. Process, she said evenly, was what got me cuffed. Leah tried to redirect. Dr. Pierce, I advise we focus on what's achievable. Officer Kellerman's suspension can be extended indefinitely pending investigation. If you pursue a formal suit, you risk your position. My position, Alana said, was already risked the moment I walked into that bank. Hart leaned forward, lowering his voice. Alana, you're too valuable to lose over this. Let us handle it quietly. The system will correct itself. She stared at him. You've spent decades in this system. Has it ever corrected itself or just adjusted its language? The air in the room shifted. A ripple of discomfort none dared name. Carter slid a folder across the table. "There's another issue," he said. "We received an anonymous tip last night. Claims the precinct's body cam footage doesn't match the public version." Leah frowned. "Meaning?" "Meaning," Carter said, tapping the folder. "The department may have edited the video before releasing it. Specifically, the first 20 seconds are missing." Hart exhaled sharply. "You can't prove that yet." "Not yet," Carter agreed. "But when we do, this becomes obstruction." Alana's pulse steadied. The memory returned. Kellerman's smirk, the tone of his voice, the look of certainty on his face. "Those 20 seconds," she said quietly, "will tell you why he reached for his gun." Leah's pen stilled. "What exactly did he say?" Alana met her gaze. He said, "People like you always think you can walk in here and own the place." No one spoke for several seconds. Hart finally said, "That line won't survive a transcript." Carter's reply was dry. "It doesn't have to. It survived on camera." Hart rubbed his temples. "Fine. I'll escalate to DOJ oversight, but I'm telling you, the press will turn this political, and once that happens, no one wins." Alana's tone softened but didn't bend. "Sometimes no one winning is better than everyone pretending." Leah's gaze flickered toward Hart. "Deputy Secretary, we should adjourn before this becomes discoverable." Hart nodded reluctantly. "We'll reconvene after DOJ reviews the footage. Until then, Alana, don't give interviews, don't comment publicly. Treasury stands with you, but only as long as you stand still." She rose, collecting her papers. "That's the problem, isn't it? You only stand with me if I don't move." Hart's expression hardened, but he said nothing as she left. In the corridor, Carter fell into step beside her. "You realize you just made enemies in 3 departments." "I've made worse," she said. He hesitated. "If the missing footage exists, it'll surface. Someone leaked the first clip. Someone inside wants this exposed. Then they'll try to bury it deeper." They reached the elevator. The mirrored walls caught her reflection. A woman still composed but cracked beneath the surface. As the doors closed, Carter asked quietly, "Do you ever get tired of fighting the same war?" She didn't answer. The hum of dissent was her only reply. Outside, reporters waited behind barricades. Cameras flashed as she stepped into the light, expression unreadable. A journalist shouted, "Dr. Pierce, do you believe the police edited evidence?" She paused, eyes meeting the crowd. "I believe truth has a way of showing up, even when systems try to erase it." Flashes exploded like lightning. Across town, in a dim precinct office, a tech officer stared at a transfer log on his screen. Timestamp gaps, digital fingerprints of deletion. He swallowed hard, knowing what it meant. He whispered to himself, "They'll find it." And somewhere between those rooms of silence and light, the first crack in the cover-up widened, too small for the public to see yet, but wide enough for truth to breathe. The footage surfaced on a Thursday afternoon, anonymously uploaded, time-stamped, untraceable. Within an hour, every major network had it. Within 2, every phone in Washington vibrated with its echo. The missing 20 seconds were there. The part they'd cut. The part that made everything undeniable. Kellerman's voice filled the screen, low and mocking. "People like you always think you can walk in here and own the place." Then the flash of his hand, the gun clearing its holster before Alana even spoke. The rawness of it was worse than memory. The contempt wasn't in the words. It was in the smirk. By evening, public silence broke into chaos. Networks replayed the clip in split screen with the department's earlier statement, contrasting procedural detainment with an image that screamed abuse of power. Talk shows debated, hashtags surged, and by nightfall, protesters filled the streets outside the precinct, placards raised under floodlights, chants rolling like thunder through the city. At her office, Alana watched the coverage from behind closed blinds. Maya stood beside her, whispering updates. They traced the upload to an internal police server. "Someone inside leaked it." "Who?" Alana asked. "Doesn't say." The metadata's scrubbed. Carter entered, eyes sharp, holding a folder. DOJ confirmed receipt. They're opening a federal civil rights investigation. Alana didn't respond immediately. She was still watching the paused frame. Kellerman's face frozen in mid-word, gun half raised, arrogance caught forever. Maya said softly, They can't deny it anymore. Alana's voice came out flat. They'll try. Carter placed the folder on her desk. They're already spinning it. The department's PR unit claims the footage was maliciously edited. Kellerman's union is backing him. They're saying he feared for his life. Her laugh was hollow. He feared losing control. Carter nodded. It doesn't matter. The hearing committee's been moved up. They want your statement tomorrow. She turned from the screen. They want to contain me. No, he said quietly. They want to test how much truth you're willing to tell under oath. The night stretched long after they left. She sat alone in the dark office, papers scattered, TV muted. Outside, distant sirens blended with the low hum of chanting crowds, rhythmic, defiant, relentless. At some point, she opened her laptop and replayed the video once more. The frame flickered. Rain gleamed on her hair. The gun pointed inches away. Her voice calm and even. You're detaining a federal officer. Then Kellerman's response, the sneer, the tilt of his head. Lady, people like you always say that. The words hit harder now, stripped of adrenaline. She whispered to the empty room. It was never just about me. Her phone rang. An unlisted number. Dr. Pierce? The voice was male, weary, nervous. This is Officer Jenkins. We met at the precinct, she straightened. Go on. I can't stay quiet anymore, he said, voice trembling. I was in the monitoring room. I saw what they cut, her pulse quickened. You leaked it, silence. Then, if they find out, I'm done. But they were going to bury everything. I couldn't. You did the right thing, he swallowed hard. They're saying Internal Affairs already knows. They'll come for me next. Listen, Alana said, her voice low but firm. Whatever happens, truth protects itself. Even if it burns everything else, he hesitated. You really believe that? I have to. The call ended abruptly. She sat back, exhaling, knowing that the leak had changed everything, and knowing, too, that truth never arrives without a price. Morning came with noise. News crews camped outside Treasury headquarters. Protesters chanted her name and Kellerman side by side, turning two lives into symbols. Inside, Hart paced the hallway, phone pressed to his ear. Yes, we've seen it. Yes, we're cooperating. No, the director won't be giving statements until the hearing. He caught sight of her and hung up. You've unleashed something we can't control, Alana. It was already out there, she said. You just didn't want to see it. Hart lowered his voice. They're calling for Kellerman's head, and the department's reputation is collapsing with his. Don't mistake chaos for victory. I'm not after victory, she said. I'm after proof that justice still exists in daylight. He shook his head. Idealism doesn't survive DC, Pierce. Be careful it doesn't kill you, too. When he walked away, she stood for a moment, steadying herself, watching reporters through the glass doors. Later that night, footage aired again, this time from a new angle. The bank's security camera had been subpoenaed. It showed the moment Alana walked in, calm, professional, unaware of the storm waiting behind that badge. Her image filled every screen in America, not as victim or symbol, but as proof. And somewhere across town in a dark apartment, Officer Kellerman sat alone watching the same footage. The glow from the TV flickered across his face. For the first time, he didn't look angry, just afraid. He whispered, "They'll destroy me for this." But the truth had already done it. The courtroom was packed, every bench filled, every corridor buzzing. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but the sound of media outside seeped through the walls like static. Dr. Alana Pierce sat at the witness table, calm on the surface, a storm beneath. The seal of the Department of Justice hung behind the judge's bench, polished, immovable, impersonal. The case was titled Pierce v. City of Arlington. It wasn't just a hearing anymore. It was an inquiry into the system itself. Judge Hammond entered, robes trailing, voice sharp. We are convened for testimony regarding the detainment and misconduct allegation involving Officer Thomas Kellerman. Dr. Pierce, you may proceed. Carter leaned close. Steady. Speak truth, not emotion. Alana nodded once. Understood, she rose. Your Honor, I stand before you not as a victim but as evidence. Evidence of what happens when authority replaces accountability. Her voice carried cleanly across the room. I was detained without cause, accused of fraud in a public space. I identified myself as a federal employee, director of the IRS Enforcement Division. Instead of de-escalation, I was met with hostility, assumption, and weaponized suspicion. The prosecutor rose. Dr. Pierce, can you describe the officer's words? She inhaled. He said, people like you always think you can walk in here and own the place. A murmur rippled through the court. And how did you interpret that statement? As an accusation, she said quietly. Not of crime, but of existence. The prosecutor nodded. And the missing footage, Carter interjected. The 20 seconds deliberately cut from official evidence, yes. That footage was leaked anonymously. It proved the intent behind his actions. Racial bias preceding protocol. The defense attorney, a stiff man with perfect diction, stood. Objection. Interpretation, not fact. The judge overruled him. The footage speaks for itself. The defense tried again. Dr. Pierce, Officer Kellerman believed you were using false credentials. You admit he did not know your title at the time. He didn't ask, she said. The courtroom quieted. He decided what he saw before I spoke. The defense shifted uneasy. You're implying racial profiling. I'm stating it, she replied. Every word landed like a hammer. When she finished, Carter rested a hand briefly on the table, grounding her. The silence that followed was taut. Then the judge said, Officer Kellerman, take the stand. The man entered wearing a muted suit, face drawn tight. The crowd shifted, tension palpable. He avoided Alana's eyes. Officer, the prosecutor began, you've reviewed the full footage? I have. And you acknowledge drawing your weapon before confirming her identity? Kellerman hesitated. It was instinct. She was defensive. She challenged my authority. By showing you federal identification? His jaw tensed. By speaking to me like she belonged there. The words slipped out before he could catch them. A collective intake of breath filled the room. The judge's expression hardened. Officer, are you aware how that sounds? Kellerman looked cornered, sweat glinting at his temple. I didn't mean, you did, Alana said quietly from the table. He turned toward her. You think I'm a monster? I was doing my job. No, she said, voice steady. You were doing what you've been taught 1,000 times, to see threat where there is difference. He opened his mouth, closed it, then dropped his gaze. Outside the courthouse, the crowd's chant rose, echoing down Constitution Avenue. We see you. We see you. By afternoon, verdicts weren't rendered, only findings. But they were enough. The DOJ recommended disciplinary action, federal oversight of the precinct, and an internal audit of racial bias procedures. Kellerman was suspended indefinitely pending criminal review. The mayor's office issued a statement within hours. We must do better. But in the hallways, people whispered. Some said she'd ruined a man's career. Others said she'd saved the city's conscience. As Alana exited the courtroom, the press surged forward. Microphones like bayonets. Dr. Pierce, do you believe justice was served? She paused at the courthouse steps, light washing over her face. Justice isn't served, she said. It's fought for, and sometimes all you get is proof you weren't crazy to demand it. Cameras flashed. Carter joined her, murmuring, You've started something you can't stop. She nodded. Good. Across the street, Officer Jenkins stood among the crowd, hood pulled low, watching silently. Their eyes met for an instant, the quiet recognition between two people who had risked truth. Later that night, Alana sat in her apartment, city lights glimmering through the window. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number again. A text this time. They've opened new cases based on your hearing. You didn't just win. You shifted the line. She set the phone down. Outside, sirens passed, not urgent, just distant. For the first time in weeks, she breathed fully. Not victory, something quieter. Survival with purpose. She whispered to the empty room. Let the system correct itself now. The lights of D.C. blinked back, indifferent yet changed. Winter came early that year. The air carried the sharpness of something unfinished. Headlines cooling, protests thinning, but the echo of the moment still in every conversation that mattered. Dr. Alana Pierce sat before a Senate oversight panel, the last formality of a battle that had outgrown her. She wasn't here to accuse anymore. She was here to document. Dr. Pierce, the chairman said, glasses glinting under the lights. Do you believe the justice system worked? Alana looked around the chamber. The same polished wood, the same practiced expressions. It worked exactly as it was built to, she said. Which is why it failed. The murmur that followed was restrained, diplomatic. But truth once spoken had a way of refusing silence. Afterward, she stepped outside into the cold, coat pulled tight. Carter joined her, papers under his arm. "They'll quote that line for months," he said. "They'll misunderstand it for years," she replied. He smiled faintly. "You sound tired." "I am." They walked together past the marble steps of the Capitol. The city around them pulsed with quiet bureaucracy. Black cars, earpieces, people pretending history wasn't happening. DOJ filed the charges against Kellerman, Carter said. "Civil rights violation, evidence tampering. He'll likely take a plea." Alana didn't flinch. "Good. He's losing everything," Carter added. "Job, pension, reputation. The system's finally eating one of its own." She stopped. "That's not victory. That's collateral." He nodded once. "Still, it's something." They parted at the corner, Carter heading toward the metro, Alana toward the Treasury building, her office, her burden. Inside, the corridors felt different now. Colleagues who once nodded politely now paused with something closer to respect or perhaps guilt. Maya greeted her at the elevator, tablet in hand. "They've cleared your name from every department database," she said. "Your record's clean again." "Again," Alana repeated, the word heavy. As if it was ever dirty, Maya hesitated. "People are calling what you did historic." Alana pressed the elevator button. History only matters if someone learns from it. In her office, the blinds were open this time. Light poured in. She sat at her desk, fingers hovering over a half-written resignation letter. She had thought victory would feel different, louder, but it was quiet, heavy, incomplete. Her phone rang. Local number. She answered. "Dr. Pierce?" "This is Officer Jenkins," her tone softened. "You're still here. For now," he said. "They reassigned me. Records division. Safer there. You did the right thing." He paused. "I keep thinking about that day. About how fast it happened. How normal it felt to him." "Yes," she said. "That's the part no one wants to talk about, and how ordinary it all seemed until it wasn't." "I just wanted you to know," he said, voice low. "People inside are watching. Some of us are starting to ask questions. That's how change begins," she said. "Questions, not apologies." When the call ended, she looked again at the resignation letter. Then she deleted it. Outside, snow began to fall, and slow, soundless. Later that evening, she appeared on Nightline. The interviewer asked, "Dr. Pierce, what did you lose in all this?" She didn't hesitate. "Certainty," she said. "And maybe that's what's required for truth. The willingness to live without certainty." The interviewer leaned forward. "Do you forgive him?" Alana looked at the camera, past it, through it. "Forgiveness isn't the issue," she said. "Accountability is. Forgiveness without accountability is just permission." The segment aired nationwide. Half the country called her a hero. The other half called her divisive. She watched none of it. In the weeks that followed, policy memos circulated. Treasury established a diversity oversight board. DOJ announced mandatory racial bias audits for municipal precincts. Small steps, systemic ripples, and in a small precinct office on the edge of Arlington, a nameplate came down quietly. Officer Thomas Kellerman, suspended. He didn't show up for his final hearing. He'd already left town. No one noticed the same evening when a local church held a vigil. Not for him, not for her, but for the idea of something better. Candles flickered, hands clasped. People murmured her name like a symbol they didn't fully understand. Alana didn't attend. She was at home, sitting by the window, the snow now blanketing the city in temporary purity. Maya called once more that night. "You know, they're saying you changed the narrative." Alana smiled faintly. "No, the narrative was always there. I just stopped whispering it." She closed the blinds, leaving the city outside to its noise and movement. Inside, she opened her journal and wrote only one sentence. "Truth is not justice." But it's the only road that leads there. Then she turned off the light. The city outside glowed. Restless, unresolved, alive. History, it seemed, wasn't finished with her yet.